Hi everyone, this is Coach Diana from Complete Performance Coaching, and I am going to talk to you today about a question that's come up a few times recently, and it's all about how to prepare your nerves for a big competition. And we know when there's a big competition looming, there's automatically kind of more pressure that even athletes put on themselves, but parents can put more pressure without even knowing it, and so can coaches. So today I want to talk about a few things that parents can do, coaches can do, and the athletes can do to try to prepare for the big competition. Okay, so first of all, like with gymnastics, for instance, I've had a couple parents ask about big invitationals where the competition itself might not mean much in terms of making it to regionals or going somewhere further, but it's a big arena, it's in a different state, there's going to be a lot more people there, and so their little girl is super nervous about it. Or it might be knowing that at state meet or at regionals you get to how well you do depends on or determines whether or not you make it to the next level, regionals or whatever. And it's not just gymnastics, every sport has this. It might be a big game. It could, in other sports, a high school championship. It might be a game where recruits are at. And so, like how well you perform might depend on whether or not you get a scholarship or get recruited to a school. So all of these things put added pressure on you. So what can you do? Parents, one of the biggest things that I think is important is you want to try to treat it just like any other competition. So whatever rituals you do, if for instance, when I was a gymnast, my mom used to give me flowers before every gymnastics meet. But it was the same. Like I knew I was going to wake up and have a rose when I woke up the morning of my competition. If you do something like that, you want to do that exactly the same for the big invitational or for the state meet or the regionals or whatever. If you go out to dinner, if you do any kind of celebratory thing prior to, keep it exactly the same. If you do anything afterwards, keep that the same too, so that they know no matter how they do, everything's going to be the same. Because if you make it bigger, you give them something else or do something different, then without knowing it, even though your intentions are good, you're actually increasing the pressure because they know that this is a bigger deal to you. So try to keep everything the same. And you want to try to keep them or help them think of it as the same as well. Another thing that I would suggest doing is taking your child to the competition site, whether that's a field or an arena or whatever. Take them there first before, maybe if you're going out of town, drive by and stop into the arena the day that you get into town or the day before their competition. If at all possible, try to get them to see the arena first, because then they have a kind of the starstruckness out of them. And they can also use that to help them prepare for their competition the next day or later that day. So really try to do that. Hopefully your child is already visualizing, and if they see the arena, then they can actually visualize with the exact atmosphere and environment that they're going to be in while they're competing, and that just helps them prepare. It also helps build their confidence. In some sports, you have the luxury of seeing game tapes prior to. Gymnastics is a little different, so we don't have that available to us. So the best next thing is to at least see the competition site. Okay, so that's what I would say for parents. Try to keep it the same. Help your athlete keep it the same, and take them to the arena beforehand. Coaches, it's a little bit different. You have a little bit of a fine line to walk because you need to make sure that your athletes are prepared for the magnitude of the competition coming up. You want them mentally ready for that and kind of knowing what to expect. But again, you also don't want to add pressure by talking about how big or how important this one competition is. To give you just a little personal story, my nephew, when he was about 7 years old, he was competing in Taekwondo. And he was pretty talented, I think, and he did very well at all of his competitions. He always walked away either winning or getting, a silver or bronze or something in at least a couple of the events that he competed in. And when I think he was 7 when he made nationals. And I have to say, his coaches did not prepare him very well for nationals, for what to expect. They did tell him there was going to be a lot more people there. And so, I think they tried to get him to realize that he wasn't going to win. But as a 7-year-old, what that translated into was, okay, I might not walk away with the gold, but I'll probably still place. And he had that kind of set in his mind. And when you get there, it was so big, and there were lots of things going on, and his coach wasn't even with him for some of the times when he was ready to compete. And I'll never forget one of his actual events. His coach was away helping a teammate, and my nephew he can't hear out of one ear, and so it was such a disaster, and the poor kid had to go, and he wasn't really ready, and nobody was there to even tell him, like, good job, relax, take a breath. And he also just wasn't prepared for not doing well, not placing. He didn't even make the cut to go to the final round, and he was devastated. And I honestly think that could have been avoided if they had prepared him better for what the magnitude of a national competition was going to look like. So, try not to make that mistake. Make sure that your athletes know what is actually going to take place, how it's going to run, and, have kind of a realistic picture of the entire competition, so that you aren't frustrated with how you did. The fact that you made it to nationals or made it to this big competition is a huge, that is such a huge accomplishment, and we need to praise that and make sure that they understand that, so that they're not so disappointed if they don't win or they don't place as high as they normally do at a smaller competition. Okay, the other thing that coaches can do is, I don't know if any of you have ever seen the movie Hoosiers, but the coach in Hoosiers does this. And if you haven't seen the movie, let me give you a little bit of background. The movie is about a small high school team, basketball team, and this high school team makes it to like the state championships, and so they travel. They're in kind of a small town. They travel to a big city, and they're going to be competing in this big arena. And the coach takes the team before they go to practice, before they change clothes. They go out into the court. They walk onto the court. And the coach is really smart. He brings a tape measure with him, and he has his players help him measure from the top of the basketball hoop to the floor. They measure it. They measure the distance from the free throw line to the basket. And he does this to show them that it's actually the exact same measurement as their home school. So way back in their small town, everything is exactly the same. The equipment didn't get bigger. It didn't get farther away. And I think that's another thing that coaches can do to really help their athletes. Even if it's something as silly as taking a measuring tape with you and saying, you know what? The balance beam didn't get any narrower with this meet. It's the exact same. Or, the baseball field didn't get bigger. You still have the same amount of room from home plate to first base, etc. So I think giving them an idea that, it's the exact same equipment, it's the same setup. The only difference is how many people are here, or, the fact that this is a regional competition versus just a regular meet. That will also help athletes. And for the athlete, I think one of the biggest things is, it's okay to have emotions, and it's okay to get nervous and to feel scared. And I think it's important to really allow yourself some time to be nervous, be scared. But then you have to, allow yourself to have that emotion and then work beyond it. So hopefully you're visualizing. That's one of the best tools that we have. And if you're visualizing regularly, that will help you get prepared mentally anyway. And then when you go to see the competition site, then you can add in that arena and that noise that you might hear into your visualizations to help you prepare. And the other thing is, once you allow yourself to feel the emotion, then you need to kind of stop that and focus on what it is you need to do. Because remember, in the competition, all you have to worry about is your routine or your at bat. your part in the athletic event. So I think it's really important to just stay focused on what you need to do to be successful, and remember that, you know, you just take one event at a time. That's all you can do, and you keep going like that, and don't let the magnitude of the meet overwhelm you. Allow yourself to have those feelings initially and then work through them. And I think that certainly visualization is one of those things. Positive self-talk is another thing that really helps you. And if you get really super nervous, I would say it's really helpful to just kind of journal, get those feelings out of you so that you're not holding them in. And then that allows you to then have the space to really focus on what you need to do to be successful in your competition. You know, all big competitions do bring another level of pressure to us. And so as best we can, we want to try to keep that intact and focus on the things that we know to do every day in every competition to make us successful. Okay, so those are my tips for trying to handle the pressures of a big competition. Please feel free to ask any questions. You can leave me a note below, or you can send me a message via email, and I will try to address those as well. Otherwise, thanks so much and have a great night.